In 1990, children accused powerful adults. The state called it a hoax. Then an investigator died. Omaha, Nebraska, early 1990. A packed hearing room goes still. Nebraska State Senator Lawrence Schmidt convenes a legislative hearing in Omaha and stares at the witness table. A young man swallows hard. His voice shakes. He says powerful men use children like currency. He says names. He says places. He says flights. Cameras click. Lawyers whisper. A court clerk watches the clock. Outside, snow drifts past the Capitol steps. Inside, one question hangs like smoke. Will this testimony expose a network or destroy the witnesses first? The accusations do not stop at Omaha. They point to Washington power. They point to money trails. They point to a bank collapse. One name keeps returning. Lawrence E. King Jr. He ran the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union. He moved in elite circles. In 1988, Federal Credit Union Regulators, NCUA, took over Franklin Community Federal Credit Union. Then kids start talking. Then adults start denying. Then allegations of intimidation and the secrecy of grand jury proceedings enter the story. What happened to the children who spoke? And why did grand juries call it a hoax? Rewind to Omaha in the mid-1980s. Franklin Community Federal serves working families. It also funds youth programs. The star fundraiser is Lawrence King. He is ambitious. He is connected. He sits on civic boards. He throws parties. He donates to politicians. By the late 1980s, regulators and investigators alleged large-scale losses and fraud at Franklin, amounting to millions of dollars. The National Credit Union Administration steps in. A local financial scandal becomes a federal case. And then, unexpectedly, it becomes something darker. Lawrence E. King Jr. is not a typical banker. He is a political operator. He hosts influential guests. He travels often. Prosecutors later accuse him of stealing from Franklin. In 1990, King was convicted in federal court on financial crime charges and sentenced to a lengthy federal prison term, often reported as about 15 years. The charges focus on fraud, but in Omaha, rumors spread faster than indictments. Youth from foster care and runaways speak of parties. They describe expensive homes. They describe fear. Their stories sound impossible until details start to match. Two investigators step forward. In 1989, Schmidt brought in investigator Gary Caradori, a former law enforcement officer, to help examine the allegations. He is methodical. He records interviews on tape. The other figure is John DeCamp, an Omaha attorney and Vietnam veteran. He helps some accusers find legal help. Both men say the kids deserve to be heard. Both men know the risk. Nebraska's institutions do not like scandal. Not in churches, not in charities, not in politics, and certainly not involving children. The children's accounts vary, but patterns repeat. They claim recruitment through shelters and programs. They claim transport to parties. They claim threats if they spoke. One accuser, Paul Bonacci, describes being used for deliveries and exploitation. His later civil case will matter. Alicia Owen alleged she was coerced and assaulted. The adults around them argue fiercely. Some call them victims. Others call them liars. The stakes are brutal. If true, children were destroyed. If false, lives were still ruined. In early 1990, the pressure spikes. A Nebraska grand jury report concluded the allegations were a carefully crafted hoax and did not produce indictments on the abuse claims. Reporters amplify that phrase. Prosecutors pursue perjury against accusers. Alicia Owen was later convicted of perjury related to her statements and served time in prison. The message is loud. Speak and you may pay. Meanwhile, Senator Schmidt refuses to drop it. He schedules public hearings anyway. The room fills with anger. The witnesses look cornered, and the state looks determined to close the door. Gary Caradori keeps digging. He claims he finds photos. He claims he finds names linked to power. He interviews multiple witnesses. Some retract, some double down. He tells colleagues he feels watched. In one account, he says, "They're following me." In mid-1990, Caradori traveled to pursue leads related to the case. He plans to return to Nebraska with evidence. On July 11, 1990, he boarded a small plane with his young son, Jason. The sky is clear. The air is calm until it isn't. The plane never makes it home. It crashed in Illinois near Alton. Gary and Jason Caradori die. The NTSB investigated and issued a probable cause finding, summarize it using the report's exact language. But suspicion floods in. Caradori's friends say he had new leads. They say he had pictures. They say he had tapes. They ask why some materials seem to vanish afterward. There is no single proven answer, only a fact pattern that feels like a warning. In Nebraska, witnesses hear the news and go silent. Then the legal fight turns sharper. In 1990, Lawrence King is convicted for fraud. The child allegations remain officially dismissed, yet the stories keep circulating. John W. DeCamp published the book, The Franklin Cover-Up, Child Abuse, Satanism, and Murder in Nebraska, 1992. He argues there was protection from above. Critics call it conspiracy. Supporters call it a record of ignored testimony. Meanwhile, Alicia Owens sits in prison for perjury. She insists she told the truth. She says she was punished for naming names. The public splits into camps, and the kids are trapped between them. One case breaks through the fog. Paul Bonacci obtains a civil judgment against former Franklin associate Michael A. Aquino in Douglas County, Nebraska. Bonacci claims Aquino abused him. Aquino denies it. The judgment is widely reported as about $1 million, and reports commonly describe it as a default judgment. That judgment does not prove every Franklin claim, but it proves one thing in court. At least one accuser prevailed in a civil case. For supporters, it is validation. For skeptics, it is an outlier. For survivors, it is a rare moment of someone being believed. By the late 1990s, the story becomes a maze. Records are sealed, witnesses recant, then return. Some say memories were manipulated. Others say fear forced silence. The term satanic panic hangs over that era, muddying everything. And yet, financial facts remain solid. Franklin collapsed. Money disappeared. King went to prison. The question becomes unbearable. Was the abuse story a smokescreen, or the reason people fought so hard to dismiss it? The closer you look, the more the timeline fights back. Now return to that hearing room, January 1990. Voices echo off wood panels. Senator Schmidt leans forward. He asks why the grand jury refused to hear certain witnesses. He asks why accusers face charges. The witnesses describe parties, cars, and threats. Some details sound surreal. Some sound painfully ordinary. A teenager says, "I was told no one would believe me." The room does not erupt, it tightens, because the danger is not noise. The danger is what happens after the microphones turn off. The hoax question finally answers itself in a grim way. The hearings do not topple a national ring. They trigger backlash. Prosecutors double down on hoax language. Alicia Owens' conviction stands for years. Many witnesses retreat. Some are discredited in public. Some struggle with addiction and trauma. Lawrence King serves time for fraud, not abuse. The system chooses a narrow crime it can prove. Money, paper, signatures, not children's memories. The near disaster becomes real. Not a single explosion, but a slow burial of testimony under procedure. Then comes the moment that changes the investigation's oxygen. July 11, 1990. The Caradori crash, father and son. A small aircraft, a field in Illinois. Investigators document wreckage and weather. Friends whisper sabotage. Officials deny it. No courtroom ever proves foul play, but the timing hits like a hammer. An investigator dies. Evidence is said to disappear. The people left behind feel the warning in their bones. In one retelling, someone says, "After Gary died, everyone got scared." Fear becomes its own verdict. The climax is not a confession, It is a split reality. On one side, official reports say hoax, perjury, financial fraud. On the other, survivors and advocates say cover-up, coercion, power. The nation moves on. Omaha keeps its skyline. Courts keep their calendars. Yet the names and dates stay. 1988, Franklin taken over by regulators. 1990, King convicted and sentenced on federal financial crime charges. Confirm exact dates. 1990, Caradori dies. 1998, Bonacci wins a verdict. These are hard markers. They do not solve the mystery, but they prove it happened in time, not rumor. After the storm, outcomes arrive unevenly. Lawrence King was later released from federal prison. Add date if you can source it. The fraud case remains the clean conviction. The child abuse allegations remain officially rejected in Nebraska's grand jury findings. Alicia Owen's story changes in public perception over time. She is eventually released, but the label follows her. Paul Bonacci's civil victory becomes a reference point for believers and doubters alike. Verify Schmidt's final year in office from Nebraska legislature records and state it accurately, or omit the year. Still insisting something was buried. Families of accusers live with the fallout. Some want closure, some want silence. The Franklin story also becomes media. Documentaries, podcasts, and books revisited. Each retelling fights the same problem. Evidence is fragmented. Memories are contested. Official files are limited or sealed. And the era's moral panic complicates every claim. Yet modern audiences hear echoes. They hear about institutions protecting reputations. They hear about victims being prosecuted. They hear about money crimes being easier than abuse crimes. The scandal becomes a template for distrust, not because every detail is proven, but because the system's response feels familiar. The aftermath is not peace. It is an argument that never ends. Step back and the lesson turns sharp. Franklin shows how power shapes which truths survive. Financial fraud leaves receipts. Abuse often leaves fear. Grand juries depend on what they are shown. Witnesses depend on who protects them. In 1990, the state's label, hoax, became a weapon. It ended careers, it ended credibility. It may have ended lives. And yet it also warns us about certainty. Some claims may be false, some may be true. The duty is the same. Investigate carefully, protect the vulnerable first, then argue the rest. Years later, the Franklin cover-up still divides people. But division is not the end of the story. The enduring impact is the question it forces. What happens when children accuse the well-connected? Who is believed first? Who is punished first? In Omaha, the dates remain carved into public record. 1988, 1990, 1998. The rest lives in testimony, denials, and missing pieces. Some scandals explode in daylight. Others are smothered in paperwork. Franklin is the second kind, and that is why it still haunts the American imagination. Long before Epstein made it familiar,